Yo, what's up? This your girl, LegendaryMsTee, and the verdict is in, baby, when it comes to P. Diddy, baby. Okay? So, ladies, I hope this shake the industry up, because a lot of these guys in the industry, and the men, especially the men with power, like Puffy, you heard me, they try to block and control people, careers, and stuff like that, right? And, the Rico thing, I didn't think he was guilty of that and racketeering. I heard about Rico and racketeering and shit like that when it came to like mobsters, and because it's like an organization of business and crime and stuff like that. But ladies, let me give y'all some encouraging words. Don't do business with a guy you having sex with. Don't do, you know what I'm saying, have sex with a guy you doing business with, right? And then he over your money. That's stupid. Business and pleasure never work unless it's a couple. Unless they've been doing business together, it work. It don't work with just, you know what I'm saying, hookup culture. Because it's always going to be something. You know what I'm saying? That's why I, gave up that hooking up culture life. Because, first of all, that really wasn't me. You heard me? And then second of all, it wasn't even really feeding my spirit. Like, some of y'all could really be having like a revolving door of men coming in and out, and then none of them niggas love y'all. You understand what I'm saying? So what I'm saying, when it comes to the business, don't compromise yourself. Because I'm Jane Doe, she said she was so in love with Puffy. Well, when they had free calls, it's like 8 dudes banging her. Come on. If a guy really like you, you're not going to have to take a charge for him. You heard me? Because I put shit out like that just to see what they're going to say. You got to test men. They be putting you to the test too. When dudes like you, you're not going to have to disrespect yourself. Doing threesomes and all that. And you're not going to keep no man with no threesome. And especially no dog ass nigga. You heard me? That's just some extra cake that he want that you giving to him. Because he going to be a dog right after that. So what you doing it for? You trying to please him and he's still gonna fuck out the hoes? Like, come on now. And then you're opening the door to let him know it's okay to go out there and cheat and fuck with other bitches. Unless we fucking with bitches together. You not a man. You can't fuck bitches with niggas. You just can't. Our makeup is different. We are feminine. Femininity. Even you could be hard like a man and all that. But bitch, at the end of the day, you going in that motherfucking room and cry because you a fucking what? Woman. Okay, so let's get into the video. I just want all my young girls to know, because people didn't used to tell me the right things. They used to just let me crash out, right?
Now, I'm not one to gossip, but I will bring you the tea. Welcome to Chronicles Speaks.
Please, I don't have any time for any gossip now. Eh? Yes. Look at you.
So we are officially at trial day number 35, but let's first recap trial day number 34. So yesterday, jurors continued deliberations after receiving the case the day before. Judge Arun Subramanian began the day by addressing a jury note from day 33, asking whether handing someone a controlled substance qualifies as distribution. The judge responded by referencing jury instructions, explaining that distribution simply means to deliver or hand over a substance and does not require a sale. He rejected both the prosecution's proposed one-word answer, yes, and the defense's suggestion to point jurors to full transcripts. Diddy, dressed in court attire, was seen whispering to his mother, Janice Combs, before leaving with the marshals. Inside the courtroom, his legal team gathered closely around him as deliberations continued. Later in the morning, the jury submitted another note, this time requesting transcripts of testimony from Cassie Ventura and a male escort by the name of Daniel Phillip. They asked for Ventura's account of 3 major incidents. One, including the alleged black eye at the Intercontinental Hotel following a freak-off. 2, the alleged violence at a New York hotel involving Phillip. And 3, a trip to the Cannes Film Festival. Now, they also requested Phillip's account of being paid for sex with Ventura and allegedly witnessing Combs drag her by her hair into a bedroom while she screamed and apologized. There was a back and forth between prosecutors and the defense over how much of the transcript should be sent. Now, prosecutors wanted to limit the scope, while the defense pushed to include testimony about Cassie's $10 million settlement with the Intercontinental Hotel. At one point, the judge considered sending all of Cassie's testimony, which visibly frustrated Diddy. Ultimately, a shorter portion was agreed upon. Now, shortly before 4:30 p.m., the courtroom buzzed with activity. Combs was brought in from his holding cell, appearing stressed as he sat among his legal team. At 4:32, the judge announced that the jury had reached verdicts on 4 of the 5 counts. Count number 2, sex trafficking by force, fraud, or coercion for victim 1. Count 3, transportation to engage in prostitution for victim 1. Count 4, sex trafficking by force, fraud, or coercion for victim 2. And count 5, transportation to engage in prostitution for victim 2. However, the jury was deadlocked on count 1, the racketeering conspiracy charge, stating that they were unpersuadable opinions on both sides. The government had accused Diddy of leading a criminal enterprise involving his staff and associates to commit crimes involving sex trafficking, kidnapping, bribery, arson, and obstruction since 2008, but the jury was clearly divided. As a result, the judge discussed of giving a modified Allen charge, which is a judicial instruction that encourages a deadlocked jury to continue working towards a unanimous verdict. Prosecutors were in favor, but the defense pushed back, arguing that it was premature. Ultimately, the judge agreed to hold off, instructing the jury only to continue deliberating and to keep an open mind. The court also discussed whether jurors should deliberate on Thursday, July 3rd, if needed. The defense didn't object, but asked the judge not to mention the option yet to the jury so they wouldn't feel rushed. The day ended with the judge telling the jury to return tomorrow and continue deliberations. Diddy sat silently in court throughout the day, surrounded by his lawyers, his mother Janice, his sister, and Dana Tran, who happens to be the mother of his youngest child. With 4 verdicts reached and 1 count still hanging in the balance, all eyes are now on this jury. Let's continue with Diddy Verdict Watch, but before we do, please be sure to subscribe to this channel and hit the bell for notification so you don't miss out on any news regarding this case and so much more. Now let's get back into it. So it's 9:15 a.m. and Sean Combs is in the courtroom talking with his lead attorney, Agnifilo. Also in as well is Shapiro, Westmoreland, Driscoll, Steele, and the prosecutors are nowhere to be seen. At 9:30, Sean Combs is talking with his lawyer, Nicole Westmoreland, while 4 of his other attorneys are huddled to the side. Combs stands up, asking marshals if he's allowed to speak to his family, seated in the front row. Now back into his holding cell. At 10:01, there is movement in the courtroom. Combs' other lawyers have returned. There is word that a jury note is now available, but nothing has been confirmed as of yet. At 10:03, word has been given that there is a verdict in the U.S. versus Combs. At 10:06, the prosecutors have filled the seats at the front table. Sean Combs is still not brought back into the courtroom from his holding cell. At 10:10, Sean Combs is brought back into the courtroom by the U.S. Marshals. He is seated with Brian Steele on his left, Terry Garagos on his right, and his family in the second row of the gallery. Judge Subramanian says, "We have received a note at 9:52 a.m. It reads, we have reached a verdict on all counts. Anything to address before we bring our jury out?" No, says the prosecution. No, says the defense. Judge says maintain order while the verdict is being read and until we have the jury out. Judge says I'll ask our deputy to bring back in our jury. Sean Combs remains seated. His 8 lawyers are standing up. Judge says all rise. Combs stands up and the jurors enter. Judge says, "We have received your note. Juror number 5, have you reached a verdict?" "We have." "Is it unanimous?" "It is." "Please provide the verdict to the deputy." Juror number 5 hands it over. Judge says the deputy will inquire as to the verdict. Deputy says in the matter of U.S. versus Sean Combs, count 1, not guilty. sex trafficking of Cassie Ventura, not guilty. Transportation for prostitution, guilty. For Jane, sex trafficking, not guilty. Transportation of prostitution of Jane, guilty. Judge continues, "I ask the media not to question jurors about their deliberations. Jurors, you can contact our chambers. You gave up a lot these 10 weeks. It is inspiring. You work together, rain or shine. You answered the call of public service. That should give us hope." Judge says, "I need to address a few matters with the lawyers. Then I will come back to meet with you." Jurors, all rise. The jurors exit for the last time. Judge says, "I'll hear any application, then about a sentencing date." Agnifilo says he should be released. So this is just us talking until they continue with court. So transportation for prostitution, each count carries up to 10 years in federal prison per count. So that's up to 20 years total for both guilty counts, plus fines and supervised release. The exact sentence depends on several factors under the federal sentencing guideline, including whether violence, coercion, or exploitation was involved, Diddy's criminal history, and enhancements like the use of DRUGS, multiple victims, and abuse of power or wealth. Now, realistically, if the judge follows guideline ranges and considers the high-profile nature and disturbing testimony, Diddy could face anywhere from 5 to 20 years. A sentence on the lower end of 5 to 10 years is possible if the judge views these as isolated acts without aggravated factors. A sentence closer to the maximum of 20 years is possible if aggravating details weigh heavily. Agnifilo says the family is here and have signed a bond. He should be released today to go back and live on Two Star Island. Judge says this is just coming up right now. I will hear from the government in a moment. Are you proposing he just walk outside now? Yes. Are you proposing $1 million bond? Yes, and travel to Florida, New York, and LA. The U.S. opposes the release, says Comey. A person found guilty shall be detained until the judicial officer finds he is not likely to flee or be a danger. Comey continues, the defendant faces a maximum sentence of 20 years, even while faced with this case. He assaulted Jane. Here in New York, preparing to surrender, he had DRUGS in his hotel room and ready to commit this same offense. Judge says, I'm not going to resolve this second. I need to review the statutes. Ms. Comey, do you have a case in which bail was denied after a conviction under the Mann Act? You may confer and come back. We plan to be here the whole day. Comey says, I am aware of cases involving minors, but we intend to raise relevant conduct at sentencing, the DRUGS, and violence. Judge says, I'll like letters from each side. When? Comey says, a few hours. Judge says, I think that makes sense. Mr. Combs does not want to go back to the MDC. He is shaking his head. So at 1 p.m. we'll have letters and we'll convene in the afternoon. I'll let the parties know when. Agnifilo says he will be a fool, which he is not, to violate any condition. Judge says court is adjourned. What I need to do is hear from you. You guys, we have been rocking together for 8 weeks, keeping up with this trial. Is this what you thought was going to happen? Leave a comment and you know how we do. We'll talk about it down below. Talk to you guys later. Bye. As always,